Okay, last big gotcha. This one has to do with code coverage. So my question is, do we have, with this test right here, 100% code coverage of this function? Let's look at this a little bit. Okay, we've got a global variable right here called testing, and it's set to true. For right now, we'll just, to make things easier, we'll say that the test and the function being tested are in the same file and both have access to this global. Okay, so very, very simple function right here called log. It takes in a message, and if testing is true, it will log the message to the console. Okay, in our test right here, we're making a fake console, and we're logging foo. Okay, so log will be called, testing will be true, and the fake console will be called, and it will get this message, and here we're testing that the message is foo. So it looks like in terms of touching every line of code, we're touching every line of code. When we call the function, right, the function gets called, we get here, testing is true, we get here. Okay, so if you think of coverage as meaning, does our test touch every single line of code? Then yes, we're touching every single line of code. However, if you run a test suite with a coverage tool on this, you will see that you're not completely covered, and it will tell you, in fact, that this line right here is not covered or not fully covered. Why is that? Okay, well, it's because every if that doesn't have an actual else has a sort of phantom else. We're really saying if testing is true, do this. Else, if testing is false, do nothing. So every conditional needs at least two tests, right? Every conditional is going to be true or false. We've only tested the true condition. We have not tested the false condition. It's really easy to miss that when you don't actually have an else in there, when you have an implied else. But it's useful to kind of think of all ifs as having elses. Now, this same gotcha can hide in a lot of places. So here's like some, what I'm calling sneaky ifs without elses. They can lurk all over your code. Okay, so one obvious example is a ternary function. Okay, we have to test both for this and for this. We have to test with testing as true or false. We will not have completely covered this unit. Okay, if you're a TypeScript user, you might be used to this sort of thing. Or even in JavaScript, just this, where you give a default right here. Now, you may not think of this as an if statement, but it really is a kind of if statement. In fact, you could actually kind of stick all of that inside the function if you wanted to, where you just take in, whatever is as this variable, not necessarily a number, and inside the function test to see if it's a number or null. So it's nice that TypeScript and JavaScript give us these conveniences, but there's really a hidden condition here. So we need to test this function with a number, and we need to also test it with null. And here's another one of those gotchas. This again is kind of an implicit if statement right here. We need to test with process env.firstname, and we need another test that tests with John, and the same down here, or we will not have complete coverage.